Io bella ragazzi, sono le 20:19, quindi faccio vedere 20:19 del 7 novembre. Allora, visto che non c'ho niente da fare, stavo scrollando TikTok da un po', proviamo a leggere Think and Grow Rich, che ce l'avevo da un bel po' a casa, però non l'ho mai letto. Anche ad esempio Trading Zone ho provato a leggerlo, però dopo un po' mi sono anche rotto. Avevo fatto anche la seconda parte, ma era tutta svogliata così. Quindi proviamo a leggere questo e provo a portare una serie, quindi dove provo a finire un libro nella mia vita, perché non ho mai letto un libro. Al di fuori magari di due libri che avevo letto per la scuola, d'estate così. Uno dell'anno scorso e uno in seconda media. Uno, quello di Wonder, del ragazzo tipo speciale, e un ragazzo normale di Lorenzo Maroni. Quindi iniziamo a leggere questo libro, raga. Il problema è che è in inglese e io non è il mio forte leggere in inglese, poi sarà abbastanza, non difficile, sarà abbastanza imbarazzante leggere in inglese davanti sincero non me ne frega un cazzo. Però mi sa che tipo preface è tipo, non credo sia tanto importante. Credo sia tipo dei ringraziamenti. Oh, però raga, dai, inizio a leggere, il microfono ce l'ho qua vicino. Volevo mettervi tipo una piccola canzoncina di sottofondo, però credo che darà solo fastidio. Quindi o no, mettiamola, perché sennò poi con la voce in inglese tutto. Ok, la mia voce si sente di più, diciamo, però vabbè. Authors Preface to Original Edition. Every chapter of this book. Lo leggo, raga, perché ci sta. Cioè, leggo la prima parte, se no non so di cosa parla. Every chapter of this book mentions the money-making secret that has made fortunes for more than 500 exceedingly wealthy people whom I have carefully analyzed over a long period of years. The secret was brought to my attention more than a quarter of a century ago by Andrew Carnegie. The canny, lovable old Scotsman carelessly tossed it into my mind when I was but a boy. Then he sat back in his chair, with a merry twinkle in his eyes, and watched carefully to see if I had brains enough to understand the full significance of what he had said to me. When he saw that I grasped the idea, he asked if I would be willing to spend 20 years or more preparing myself to take it to the world, to men and women who, without the secret. Raga, sincero, se mi trovate a forzare un po' l'accento, non è che lo faccio apposta per sembrare perfetto, ma anche per imparare la lingua, perché molto probabilmente magari in futuro farò video in inglese, non si sa mai, però provo anche a metterci un po' di accento americano, inglese. Poi magari la maggior parte delle persone non è arrivata fino a questo momento. Mettete un emoji così, ragazzi, siete arrivati fino a questo momento. Ok. Quindi lui sta parlando di questa persona qua che l'ha introdotto a questa cosa o a questi concetti che lui spiegherà nel libro, credo. Without the secret, might go through life as failures. I said I would, and with Mr. Carnegie's corporation, I have kept my promise. This book contains the secret, which has been put to a practical test by thousands of people from almost every walk of life. It was Mr. Carnegie's idea that the magic formula, which gave him a stupendous fortune, ought to be placed within reach of people who do not have time to investigate how people make money. He hoped that I might test and demonstrate the soundness of the formula through the experience of men and women in every calling. He believed the formula. Ah no, vaffanculo. He believed the formula should be taught in all schools and colleges and expressed the opinion that... Giriamo pagina. Abbiamo già fatto una pagina, raga. Io direi di smettere. If it were properly taught, it would so cosa si vede? Rivoluzionare in teoria the entire educational system, that the time spent in school could be reduced to less than half. Parlo diretto al microfono, raga, o lo metto qua. His experience with golf. Ecco perché erano amici. Aspettate, raga. 2026 no, e non l'ho fatto apposta. Vi lascio anche il tempo qua, così almeno facciamo così. Boh, vabbè, basta. His experience with Charles M. Schwab, see page 58, and other young men of Mr. Schwab's type convinced Mr. Carnegie that much of what is taught in schools is of no value whatsoever in connection with the business of earning or living. Abbasso un po' il volume, raga, della canzoncina. Of no value whatsoever in connection with the business of earning or a living or accumulating riches. He arrived at this decision having taken into his businesses one young man after another, many with little schooling, and developed in them rare leadership by coaching them in the use of this formula. Moreover, his coaching made fortunes for every one of them who followed his instructions. In the chapter on face, you will read a surrounding story of how the formula was applied to the organization of the giant United States Steel Corporation. It was conceived and carried out by one of the young men through whom Mr. Carnegie proved that his formula will work for all who are ready for it. The single application... Raga, ci sta facendo gatekeeping, ci sta parlando troppo e non ci ha detto ancora niente. It was convinced and carried out... Ok, it was... Mi sa che siamo arrivati quasi. It was convinced and carried out by one of the young men through whom Mr. Carnegie proved that his formula will work for all who are ready for it. The single application of the secret by that young man, Charles Mr. Schwab, made him a huge fortune in both money and opportunity. Roughly speaking, this particular application of the formula was worth $600 million. These facts, and they are facts well known to almost everyone who knew Mr. Carnegie, give you a fair idea of what the reading of this book may bring to you one day, provided you know what you want. Even before it had undergone 20 years of practical testing, The secret was passed on to more than 100,000 men and women who have used it for their personal benefit, and as Mr. Carnage planned that they should. Some have made fortunes with it. Others have used it successfully in creating harmony in their homes. The secret to which I refer has been mentioned no fewer than 100 times throughout this book. It has not been directly named, for it seems to work more successfully when it's merely uncovered and left inside, where those who are ready and searching for it may pick it up. Allora, sincero leggo così perché sembra più interessante anche da leggere se lo leggo tipo in una maniera tipo, non lo so, storytelling, no? Ecco perché non ho amici. Ok, basta. That is why Mr. Carnage tossed it to me so quietly, without giving me its specific name. If you are ready to put it to use, you will recognize this secret, at least one in every chapter. I wish I could tell you how much you will know if you are ready, but that would deprive you of much of the benefit you will receive when you make the discovery in your own way. While this book was being written, my own son, who has then finishing the last year of his college work, picked up the manuscript of chapter 2, read it, and discovered the secret for himself. He used the information so effectively that he went directly into responsible position at a starting salary greater than the average man ever earns. Allora, c'è pure un accento egiziano insieme a quello italiano, che secondo me l'accento egiziano è molto più bello dell'accento italiano quando si parla in inglese. Stop, man. Stop playing with me. Sincero, io lo alzerei ancora un po'. Così va bene. Ok, quindi suo figlio ha capito cosa c'era, sta cosa qua nel capitolo 2. Ogni tanto mi fermo, ragazzi, vi spiego anche a voi, così capisco anche bene io. Capisco quello che sto leggendo, anche se lo sto capendo più o meno, però anche vi trasmetto qualcosa. He used the information so effectively that he went directly into responsible position at a starting salary greater than the average man ever earns. His story has been briefly described in chapter 2. When you read it, perhaps you will dismiss any feeling you may have had at the beginning of the book that it promised too much and too. Comunque devo seguire la punteggiatura, se no già non capisco io se leggo veloce e non capirete nemmeno voi che non lo state tenendo in mano. And two, if you have ever been discouraged, if you have had difficulties to surmount which took the very soul out of you, if you have tried and failed, if you were ever handicapped by illness or physical affliction, this story of my son's discovery and use of the Carnage formula may prove to be the oasis in the desert of lost hope, for which you have been searching. This secret was extensively used by President Woodrow Wilson during World War I. It was passed on to every soldier who fought in the war, carefully wrapped in the training received before going to the front, President Wilson told me it was strong factor in raising the funds needed for the war. Early in 20th century, Manuel L. Quezon, the resident commissioner of the Philippine Islands, was inspired by the secrets to gain freedom for his people, and went on to lead them as its first president. A peculiar thing about this secret is that those who acquire it and use it find themselves literally swept on to success with but little effort, and they never again submit to failure. If you doubt this, study the names and records of those who have used it, wherever they have been mentioned, and be convinced. There is no such thing as something for nothing. The secret to which I refer cannot be had without a price, although the price is far less than its value. Those who are not intentionally searching for it cannot have it at any price. It cannot be given away. It cannot be purchased for money, because it comes in two parts. One part is already in possession of those who are ready for it. Però figa, se è tutto così, cioè poi c'è il capitolo 1 e tutto, però figa. Vediamo un attimo appena, cioè quando inizia. Vabbè. One part is already in possession. Okay, the secret serves equally well all who are ready for it. Education has nothing to do with it. Long before I was born, the secret has found its way into the possession of Thomas A. Edison, and he used it so intelligently that he became the world's leading inventor, although he had but 3 months of schooling. The secret was passed on to a business associate of Mr. Edison. He used it so effectively that, although he was then making only 12,000 a year, he accumulated a great fortune and retired from active businesses while still a young man. You will find his story at the beginning of the first chapter. It should convince you. Comunque raga, metto sta roba qua, perché secondo me ci saranno tante lettere che magari daranno fastidio, o tanti pop che non so cosa ancora non so cosa vogliano dire, però arrivo. Sto tenendo così perché sto tenendo col gomito il robo. Lo allontano anche un bel po' così. Ma sarà bello da vedere, sincero. Lo metto qua. Distanza, un pisello e mezzo. Let's come back. It should convince you. You will find his story at the beginning of the first chapter. It should convince you that riches are not behind your reach, that you can still be what you want to be, that money, fame, recognition, and happiness can be had by all who are ready and determined to have these blessings. How do I know these things? You should have the answer before you finish this book. You may find it in the very first chapter or on the last page while I was performing the 20-year task of research. Raga, vi lascio sta perla qua, non ve la faccio, non vi faccio vedere il mio culo ovviamente, però vi lascio una scoreggia. Oh my fucking god, ragazzi, dovrei iniziare a streamare. Poi questa cosa qua, perché non ho amici? Which I had undertaken at Mr. Carnege's request. I analyzed hundreds of well-known men, many of whom admitted that they had accumulated their vast fortunes through the aid of the Carnegie secret. Among these men were Henry Ford, che mi sa che è l'inventore della Ford, Theodore Roosevelt è il presidente dell'America, William Wrigley, che non lo conosco, John Wanamaker, non lo conosco, James J. Hill, non lo conosco, Wilbur Wright, Williams Jennings Bryan, Woodrow Wilson, William Howard Taft, Albert H. Gary, King Gillette, Alexander Graham Bell. Ho già sentito Alexander Graham Bell, però non so chi sia. John D. Rockefeller, anche questo l'ho già sentito. Thomas A. Edison è quello della lampada. F. W. Woolworth, non lo conosco. Clarence Darrow. These names represent but a small fraction of the hundreds of well-known Americans whose achievements, financially and otherwise, prove that those who understand and apply the Carnegie secret reach high stations in life. All the people I have known who have been inspired to use the secret have achieved noteworthy success in their chosen calling. I have never known any person to distinguish himself or to accumulate riches of any consequence without possession of the secret. From these two facts, I draw the conclusion that the secret is more important as a part of the knowledge essential for self-determination than anything one receives through what is popularly known as education. What is education? Anyway, as far as schooling is concerned, many of these men had very little. John Wanamaker once told me that what little schooling he acquired in very much the same manner as a locomotive takes on water, by scooping it up as it runs. Henry Ford never reached the high school, let alone college. I'm not attempting to minimize the value of schooling. Sincero c'ha ragione. But I'm trying to express my earnest belief that those who master and apply the secret. Però Sincero ha rotto un po' il cazzo, Sincero. Will reach high stations, accumulate riches, and bargain with life on their own terms, even if their schooling has been meager. C'è scritto meager, non so, meager. Somewhere as you read. The secret to which I refer will jump from the page instantly boldly before you if you are ready for it. When it appears, you will recognize it. Whether you receive the sign in the first or the last chapter, stop for a moment when it presents itself and raise your glass to toast your epiphany. Chapter 1 tells the story of my very dear friend who was generously acknowledged having seen the mystic sign, and whose business's achievements are evidence enough that he turned down a glass. As you read his story and the others, remember that they deal with the important problems of life, such as all people experience. The problems arising from wants and over to earn a living, to find hope, courage, contentment, and peace of mind, to accumulate riches and to enjoy freedom of body and spirit. Ah, basta, click up. To accumulate riches and to enjoy freedom of body and spirit. Remember to. Raga, lo allontano un po', ho paura che si senta altissimo. Remember too, as you go through the book, that it deals with the fact and not with fiction. Its purpose is to convey a great universal truth through which all who are ready may learn, not only what to do, but also how to do it, and receive the needed stimulus to make a start. As a final word of preparation, may I offer one brief suggestion that may provide a clue to recognizing the carnage secret. It is this: all achievement, all earned riches have their beginning in an idea. If you are ready for the secret, you already possess one half of it. Therefore, you will readily recognize the other half the moment it reaches your mind. E qua finisce, diciamo, la prefazione o le robe da mettere in chiaro. E mi sa che qua è tipo... Ah no, è ancora un'altra prefazione. Ok. E questo è il capitolo 1, quindi leggiamo l'altra prefazione. Intanto vado un attimo, raga, e arrivo. Vado a scrollare un po' su TikTok, giro per la casa e arrivo. I'm right back. Non è passato tanto tempo, penso 4 minuti. Leggiamo che cazzo da dire qua. Preface to the current edition. When Think and Grow Rich was published Vabbè, non faccio il finto di sorpreso perché l'avevo visto prima su TikTok, però 1937, quindi queste robe qua sono state dette anche un secolo fa, però in teoria funzionano ancora. Tante persone fanno i complimenti a sto libro qua, quindi non sono cose vecchie che non si possono più applicare, diciamo. Poi cioè, io non sto cercando di applicare qualcosa, di trovare qualcosa da applicare, però ovviamente sarà una cosa interessante da leggere perché tante persone lo consigliano. Avevo visto il video di Mangazzi che consiglia tipo top libri così e basta. Quindi When Think and Grow Rich was published in the 1937, it was acclaimed as one of the great inspirational books of its time. Together with Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking, it became the strength of... Porca troia, raga, ho sputato sul libro. tot sul libro, raga. Che due coglioni. Perché devo fare così? Vabbè, dai. It became essential reading for men and women who pursued success in their lives and career. Over 15 million copies of this book have been sold. It became a roadmap for many millions of people to escape the poverty of the Depression era and gain prosperity for themselves, their families, and in many cases their employees. Who was Napoleon Hill, and that was the source of his philosophy. Napoleon Hill was born into a poor family in 1883, quindi 1883. È proprio un hunk sto qua. In one room cabin in rural Virginia. He was orphaned at the age of 12 and brought up by relatives. Overcoming poverty and his rebellious nature, he struggled to obtain an education and developed into one of the pragmatic genius of his time. Aged 13, he started his writing career as a stranger for a small town newspaper, a reporter who wrote items and stories about happenings in his area for pennies a line. Perhaps because of his own struggle to overcome poverty, he became obsessed with why people fail to achieve true financial success and happiness in their lives. To earn a living, he chose to pursue careers in both law and journalism. His early career and as a reporter helped finance his way through law school. His big break came when he was given an assignment to write a series of success stories of famous men. One of the men he interviewed for this series was Andrew Carnegie, the world-renowned steel magnate. Comunque raga, adesso vado a cercare questo qua perché sincero mai sentito il suo nome e vorrei capire chi è. Andrew Carnegie. Imprenditore filantropo scorsa naturalizzato statunitense come imprenditore guidò l'enorme crisi. Già la produzione del primo Novecento, diventando uno dei più uomini d'affari ricchi della storia. Ci sta. Adesso vorrei un po' Nasdaq come sta chiudendo. Shit man. We might have the long finally or not or no. È veramente proprio una merda sta price action di merda. È una merda. Qua ancora che stavo bello fermo. Perché ho chiuso? Vabbè. Andate via. Guardate, vi metto via. Metto la data qua. E vedete il tempo che scorre. No, ok, scherzo. Was Andrew Carnegie, the world-renowned Renowned steel magnate Mr. Carnage was so impressed by the young journalist that he gave him a commission that would dominate the next 25 years of Hill's life. The project was to interview over 500 millionaires to find a success formula that could be used by the average person. The interviews included the greatest and wealthiest men of the era. Among them were Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Henry Ford, Charles M. Schwab, Theodore Roosevelt, William Wrigley Jr., John Wanamaker, William Jennings Bryan, George Eastman, Woodrow Wilson, William H. Taft, John D. Rockefeller, F. W. Woolworth, and many others who are not as well known today. During this period, Andrew Carnegie became Hill's mentor, helping Hill formulate a philosophy of success, drawing on the thoughts and the experience of the people who were interviewed. The success of Think and Grow Rich led to a long career as consultant to a business leader, lecturer, and writer of several more books, and made Hill a millionaire in his own right. Napoleon Hill died in November 1970 after a long and successful career. His work stands as a guidepost to individual achievement and has influenced readers for almost 70 years. Updating a classic work is a monumental task. The basic philosophy of the writer cannot be changed. It must always be Napoleon Hill's book, not mine. I approached it in the same way as an art restorer looks at a classic painting that is being refurbished. I carefully studied the text and deleted stories and anecdotes that, although meaningful to the reader of 1930s, have little significance to the reader of 21s. I replaced them with example and illustration of men and women who, in their careers in recent times, exemplified the principles Napoleon Hill promulgated. In the following chapters, you will learn these principles, in addition to reading the success stories of the people Hill studied for the original book. You will meet some of the top achievers of our time, such as Bill Gates, Mary Kay Ash, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ray Kroc, Michael Jordan, and others. Napoleon Hill's proven steps to riches are as valid for today's reader as they were for his Comunque raga, non vedo l'ora che mi faccio i 18 anni e poi aspetto ancora un anno, così mi faccio 500 euro di libri gratis. Mi prendo tipo The Alchemist, tipo Trading Wizards, che sono tipo trader fortissimi così, che parlano, cioè vengono intervistati su un libro, no? E vorrei prendermi veramente tanti libri da leggere, se veramente finisco questo. Se finisco questo e mi appassiono alla lettura, raga, sarà bellissimo. Sarà una cosa bella, ci sta. Quindi let's read. All who read, understand and apply this philosophy will be better prepared to attract and enjoy these higher standards of living that always have been and always will be denied to all aspects those who are ready for them. Be prepared, therefore, When you actively follow Napoleon Hill precepts to make major changes in your approach to life, it will pay off in enabling you to enjoy a life of harmony and understanding, as well as setting the stage for you to join the ranks of wealthy people. Comunque raga, sti video qua li studieranno gli scienziati scienziati no, li studieranno gli imprenditori fra 20 anni per vedere quanta passione c'è dietro, no, perché non mi piace leggere. Però vorrei essere ricordato non nella storia, però nell'industria del trading, così vorrei essere ricordato come una persona che ha dimostrato a tutti che ce la si può fare con un sogno. E qua finisce la preface to current edition, perché mi sa che l'hanno cambiata, quindi hanno messo nuovi termini, tutte nuove robe. Raga, abbasso il volume perché non voglio che sentiate il... Okay, let's stop playing and start reading. The power of thought. Ma se raga, se lo metto così e leggiamo assieme. The power of thought. The man who thought his way. The man who thought his way into partnership with Thomas A. Edison. Cazzo c'è scritto qua? Truly thoughts are things. Basta. Truly thoughts are things, and powerful things at that. When mixed with purpose, persistence, and burning desire for their translations into riches or other material objects. Edwin C. Barnes discovered how true it is that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come about at one sitting. It came little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of the great Thomas Edison. One of the chief characteristics of Barner's desire was that it was definite. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. Observe carefully the description of how he went about translating his desire into reality, and you will have a better understanding of the 13 principles which lead to riches. When this desire or impulse or thought first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. Two difficulties stood in his way. He did not know Mr. Edison, and he did not have enough money to pay his rail fare to Orange, New Jersey. These difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of people from making any attempt to carry out the desire. But his was no ordinary desire. He was so determined to find a way to carry out his desire that he finally decided to travel by blind baggage rather than be defeated. To the uninitiated, this means that he went to East Orange on a freight train. Quindi c'è questo uomo qua che vuole lavorare per Edison, credo, e ci prova con tutte le maniere. Quindi adesso, serio, provo a tradurvi quello che c'è e spiegarvi cosa, tipo ogni, perché se vedete ogni tot qua c'è uno spazio tipo come questo qua, come questo, così. Ogni spazio come questi vi leggo, cioè vi dico, diciamo, un riassunto in italiano. He presented himself as Mr. Edison Laboratory and announced he had come to go into business with the inventor. In speaking of the first meeting between them, years later, Mr. Edison said, "He stood there before me, looking like an ordinary tramp. But there was something in his expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had come after. I had learned, from years of experience with men, that when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he is willing to stake his entire future on a single turn of the wheel in order to get it, he is sure to win. Come me. I gave him the opportunity he asked for, because I saw he made up his mind to stand by until he succeeded. Subsequent events proved that no mistake was made." Quindi la prima volta che si è introdotto ad Edison lo trova, diciamo, molto molto convinto nel voler diventare o di lavorare con lui. Quindi, a differenza di tante persone, si è notato la sua voglia, diciamo, e determinazione di lavorare con Edison e il volere lavorare con Edison. Quindi Edison gli permette di lavorare con lui e questa cosa qua non lo deluderà. Quindi, just what young Berners said to Mr. Edison on that occasion was far less important than what he thought. Edison himself said so. It could not have been the young man's appearance that got him start in the Edison office, for that was definitely against him. It was what he thought that counted. Quindi non ho capito sta parte, però continuiamo un attimo, magari ce la spiega un po'. If the significance of this statement could be conveyed to every person who reads it, there would be no need for the remainder of this book. Berners did not get his partnership with Edison on his first interview. He did get a chance to work with Edison in the Edison offices at a very nominal wage, doing work that was unimportant to Edison, but most important to Barnes o Barnes, non lo so. It gave him an opportunity to display his merchandise where his intended partner could see it. Quindi Barnes non è che ha avuto la partnership con Edison con la sua prima intervista, però ha avuto la occasione di lavorare con nell'ufficio di Edison con un pagamento normale, facendo dei lavori non importanti ad Edison ma molto importanti a Barnes, e questa cosa qua gli ha dato, diciamo, la possibilità di darsi un personaggio, di farsi comunque riconoscere con il suo, diciamo così, il suo detto partner lo veda. Facciamo così che lo traduco e lo spiego. Months went by. Apparently nothing happened to bring the coveted goal, which Barnes had set up in his mind as his definite major purpose. But something important was happening in Barner's mind. He was constantly intensifying his desire to become the business associate to Edison. Quindi sono passati mesi e apparentemente niente è successo per to bring the coveted goals. Niente è successo che abbia fatto, diciamo, far accadere questi successi qua, non lo so. Che Barnes aveva settato nella sua mente con un, diciamo, with purpose, non so come si dice, con una motivazione, diciamo. Quindi lui era sempre a intensificare, he was constantly intensifying his desire, quindi voleva sempre, intensificava proprio il volere di diventare un business, quindi un socio di Edison. Psychologists have correctly said when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts it in its appearance. Barnes was ready for a business association with Edison. Moreover, he was determined to remain ready until he got that which he was seeking. Quindi i psicologi hanno detto che quando una persona vuole veramente una cosa, la mette in primo luogo, diciamo, it puts it into appearance, non so cosa vuol dire, in its appearance. Barner era pronto a diventare un socio di Edison ed era determinato di rimanere finché quel obiettivo lì non era, diciamo, completamente andato bene. He did not say to himself, well, what's the use? I guess I will change my mind and try for salesman job. But he did say, I came here to go into business with Edison, and I'll accomplish this end if it takes the remainder of my life. He meant it. What a different story people would have to tell if only they would adopt a defined purpose and stand by that purpose until it had time to become an all-consuming obsession. È molto simile a me sto qua. Quindi non è che ha detto a se stesso, ok, ma cosa sto facendo qui? Mi sa che cercherò un lavoro come salesman, quindi come un uomo che vende, non so, salesman non so come si dice in italiano. Però ha detto, no, io sono arrivato qua per diventare socio di Edison e lo farò e succederà. Anche se prenderà la mia vita, anche se ci metterò, diciamo, la mia vita, anche se ci metterò una vita, non lo so. Lui lo diceva veramente e ci credeva con tutto se stesso. Quindi what a different story people have. Quindi le persone, se veramente avessero una motivazione dietro la loro vita, purpose vuol dire obiettivo, quindi se qualcuno ha un obiettivo, finché poi non diventa proprio un'ossessione, quindi stessa cosa con me, non per flexare, però adesso raga bevo, arrivo. Ma tutti mi moggano, però arriverà un giorno che moggerò tutti. Stop the cap, stop the cap. Maybe young Barnes did not know it at the time, but his bulldog determination, his persistence with a single desire, was destined to mow down all opposition and bring him the opportunity he was seeking. Quindi anche se il giovane Barnes non sapeva a che tempo, quindi quando, con questa determinazione da bulldog, la sua consistenza e persistenza, con un solo obiettivo nella sua mente, era destinato di battere, diciamo, tutti e farlo arrivare al suo obiettivo. When the opportunity came, it appeared in a different form and from a different direction that Burns had expected. That is one of the tricks of opportunity. It has a sly habit of slipping in by the back door, and often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Perhaps this is why so many fail to recognize opportunity. Quindi quando un'opportunità arriva in varie forme e da direzioni diverse che Barnes si sarebbe aspettato. Questo è uno dei trucchi delle opportunità. E tante volte arriva in un modo sfortunato o in tempi brutti, diciamo. Ed è questa cosa qua che fa fallire tante persone. Mr. Edison had just perfected a new office device, known at that time as the Edison dictating machine, later called the Ediphone. His salesmen were not enthusiastic over the machine. They did not believe it could be sold without great effort. Barnes, vediamo Barnes Edison, vediamo se, cioè, credo sia vero ovviamente, però vorrei vedere la sua faccia di sto. Come veramente ogni volta che apro Barnes, come si chiama il suo nome? Barnes. Edwin C. Barnes. Ok. Thomas Edison? Ma non era così. Ok. Thomas Edison io me lo ricordavo come Nikola Tesla. Thomas Edison. Pensavo fosse lui. Ok, ho sbagliato persona allora. Però anche Nikola Tesla aveva inventato la lampada, no? Boh. Porca troia, sono tornato indietro. Mamma mia. Ok, quindi Mr. Edison aveva appena finito un ufficio, un ufficio, diciamo un device, quindi un nuovo oggetto da ufficio, conosciuta come la Edison Machine, dopo chiamata Ediphone. Il suo salesman non era molto entusiasta, quindi chi, diciamo, lavorava con lui non era molto entusiasta da questa macchina qua, non credevano non credevano che potesse essere venduta senza, diciamo, difficoltà. Però l'unico a vedere questa opportunità era Barnes assieme ad Edison. Quindi it had crawled in quietly hidden in a queer looking machine that interested no one but Barnes and the inventor. Quindi gli unici interessati appunto erano Barnes ed Edison. Barnes knew he could sell the Edison detecting machine. He suggested this to Edison and promptly got his chance. He did sell the machine. In fact, he sold it so successfully that Edison gave him a contract to distribute and market it all over the nation. Out of that business association grew the slogan, made by Edison and installed by Barnes. This business alliance made but Barnes rich in money, but he accomplished something infinitely greater. He proved that one really may think and grow rich. Bellissima sta storietta qua. Cioè, no, non sto prendendo in giro dicendo storietta. Però alla fine Barnes era l'unico che ci credeva con questa cosa qua, con Edison, e diciamo ha suggerito ad Edison come vendere, e appunto ha venduto la macchina non solo tipo nel loro paesino, ma in tutta la nazione. Quindi aprono questo business qua assieme, dove c'è scritto made, quindi fatto da Edison e installato by Barnes. E la cosa non interessava tanto a Barnes dei soldi fatti, ma finalmente è diventato, diciamo, socio. How much actual cash that original Dyers of Barnes was worth to him, I have no way of knowing. Perhaps it brought him $2 or $3 million. Whatever the amount, it becomes insignificant when compared with the greater asset he acquired, the definite knowledge that an intangible impulse of thought can be transmuted into its physical counterpart by the application of known principles. Barnes literally taught himself into a partnership with the great Edison. He taught himself into a fortune. He had nothing to start with, except the capacity to know what he wanted, and the determination to stand by that desire until he realized it. He had no money to begin with. He had but little education. He had no influence. But he did have initiative, faith, and the will to win. With these intangible forces, he made himself number one man with the greatest inventor who ever lived. Now, let us look at a different situation and study a man who had plenty at the back of a tangible evidence of riches, but lost it because he stopped 3 feet short of the goal he's seeking. Quindi qua, sta parte qua dice how much actual cash, quanto effettivamente valeva questa fame, diciamo, credo, di Barnes. Non ho modo di saperlo, però tutta questa fame, diciamo, questa idea gli ha portato quasi dai 2 ai 3 milioni di dollari. Qualsiasi è il suo, diciamo, patrimonio, diventa insignificante comparato con la miglior cosa che aveva lui, l'intangibile impulso di voler proprio avere cioè non so come, perché non vi sto, cioè non è che non vi sto a dire ogni roba, però non saprei tradurvi ogni cosa, però ho capito. Quindi L'importante è che capisco io, poi voi... Dai. Comunque... Ok, basta. Quindi adesso ci spiegherà un attimo sta storia qua di suo signore che poteva diventare ricco, però si è fermato. E sta parte qua, raga, sincero, penso di guardarla domani, perché abbiamo letto quasi sulle 10 pagine, anche se non sembra, però è passata un'ora. E sincero, continuiamo domani mattina vi prometto, e prometto a me stesso prima di tutto, di continuare a leggere sto libro qua, che sembra interessante, sincero, perché racconta tante cose. Alla fine l'uomo non è tanto cambiato da quando è nato, quindi sicuramente anche se l'era è cambiata, però diciamo che tante cose sono rimaste quelle. Quindi adesso faccio la copertina, faccio la foto, perché molto probabilmente, raga, tutto il tempo ero così a leggere, quindi non sarà interessante da cliccare. Poi non mi interessa che se qualcuno clicca o meno, però dai, ci vediamo domani, raga, con la lettura, e domani farò pure il video del journal e dovrò studiare per la scuola. Affanculo la scuola, ragazzi. Dito medio alla scuola. Yeah. Dai, a domani. Think and grow rich, guys.